Welcome back. Professor Charles Dokubo of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs joins me now for more on the issues earlier mentioned. Professor, thank you for joining us on Diplomatic Channel. Let's begin with North Korea, already burdened by UN sanctions and 7 times yet remains recalcitrant on its position to continue testing nuclear weapons. What do you think is the goal of the Kim Jong-un regime?
The fact is that for them, nuclear weapon is a weapon of last resort. And they believe that they are really threatened by the United States presence in South Korea. So whoever that says that they are just a nuisance, sometimes I think they should understand what deterrence really is. Nuclear weapons are not weapons that you use to win wars.
What do you use them for?
You don't use
them to
because
negotiate.
it's to prevent war.
Okay.
That's why we have deterrence. You deter your opponent, so that he realizes that you have the capability and capacity. By testing it also, you communicate to him that this thing works. As a result, there should be no surprise in this relationship. However, nuclear deterrence is between two rational leaders, rational. But in case of Trump and the North Korean leader, I don't know who is rational.
Well, you could say the U.S. is rational.
I will not accept that it is rational.
But North Korea is still receiving aid, despite the fact that every money that it gets, it's putting into nuclear development. But I think it is still getting aid.
People don't understand why they are still getting aid, and then also why the Chinese are reluctant about enforcing whatever it is that you claim that they should do. The fact is that they see North Korea as a buffer between them and the West. Okay. And that if that regime fails, there will be no buffer. So whatever sanction you placed, here is a country that believes that its existential relation is a threat, is threatened. And so we might not understand, we might say that this man is crazy, we might say anything, but the fact also remains that nuclear weapons deter. Since the acquisition of nuclear weapons, no nuclear weapon states had ever been attacked. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, deterrence is working.
But North Korea is not going to be attacked by the U.S. In any case, you think that the sanctions imposed by the UN is of no use, really?
This is a country, how many times had the United Nations imposed sanctions on North Korea?
7 times.
The fact is that this country, they know what they are living for, or the regime knows what they are living for. And as a result, they will not lower their guards. And their threats of attack, of using weapons, nuclear weapons and all that, I think you are just going ahead of yourself, in the sense that if you look what I call the cost-benefit analysis of using nuclear weapons in the Korean Peninsula, I think if it takes place, then the living will envy the death.
So what should the rest of the world do?
The
Just
world
watch North Korea keep developing weapons?
You cannot stop them. What you have to do is that use moral suasion. Persuade them. Tell them that they should bring them in, not by threats. Bring them in. Let them be members of the NPT treaty. If they are members, then definitely you can limit the progress with which they are going in terms of nuclear refinements and all that. But threats and sanctions, you only push them to the wall.
I suppose that's what the ASEAN meeting, the meeting that the North Korean delegation is in the Philippines for, is actually doing. Because there at the meeting, the South Korean delegation did appeal to North Korea to stop its development of nuclear weapons. But let's turn to Russia now. What do you make of Congress wanting to send a strong signal to the Kremlin, and then President Trump's reluctance to sign that bill imposing sanctions on Russia?
If he has nothing to hide, he will not be bothered about whatever sanction that the Congress want to impose on Russia. The fact is that an investigation is going on, and Congress went ahead of him to try to craft this bill so that he could not, because he has been so he has always tried to endear himself to the Russian leader. Mm-hmm. As a result, if Congress does not take this step, he will be very reluctant to impose anything. So I think it defines a new relationship, in the sense that Russia will have to know that the present administration, although the president wants to get close to them and work together with them, the American people are not ready to do that.
Well, you saw the criticism in Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev's comment on Facebook, saying that I mean the U.S. government is being controlled. Well, that's what he implied. They've been controlled by the Congress, allowing Congress to decide for him what it is that he wants. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but looking at that, you could think that there was some discussion behind the scenes between Russia and President Trump, and that is not what is being played out.
Premier Dmitriev could say that, wouldn't he? Because it affects their relationship. They believe that with Trump, most of the sanctions imposed, buildings seized by the United States will be released to them. They are looking on high and high.
And previous sanctions already are affecting the economy.
Yes, so definitely that was what they expected. Eventually, this commission to investigate about collusion and Russia's interference in the election had turned everything upside down. So they have the right to query and even to blame the system. But the American system works.
How much further do you think relations between Russia and the U.S. could deteriorate? I mean, President Trump said that they're at an all-time low, although he's blaming Congress for that, but he says relations are at an all-time low. How much further can it go? How much lower, rather, can it go?
I doubt if it will lead to any other problem. It has been like that for some time in the Cold War period, and that we survived. They still have the hotline between Moscow and Washington. They can still discuss issues and all that threatens international security.
And the back door that Jared Kushner is trying to create.
And also they backed, and also, they also supported the sanction on North Korea. So definitely they are still playing roles. If not, they will have taken a different stance to lead it to a gridlock in the sense that we don't accept, and that you need all members of the Security Council to have a unanimous vote before it. So they supported the United States in that case.
But it sounds like Russia is playing a double role here. I mean, you support sanctions against North Korea, but you do not support sanctions against Syria. So does the U.S. really need Russia?
They need Russia so far as, if the U.S. sees itself as the bastion of international peace and security, then definitely you need Russia. And the progress Russia had made in Syria, very, very important. They've carved out areas of safe havens so that they could fight against ISIS. The United States have already stopped their support for some of these factions that they supported. So be that as it may, I believe Russia should even be more proactive than staying behind. Because in the United States, you don't know who you are dealing with. There is no unified foreign policy organization to deal with some of these issues. The president will say this thing, one thing, then Secretary of State will say a different thing. I believe that the problem is about Trump himself.
Well, I know that Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, once said that Russia is no longer going to be behind. Now they're going to be playing a more active role in international politics and so on. But there are countries in the EU or in Europe which are not happy about these sanctions that the U.S. has imposed against Russia. The reasons, of course, are economic.
Economic, yes.
Yes. So is this a catch-22 for all of them involved? I mean, you're damned if you impose sanctions on Russia, then your friends in Europe suffer.
Yes.
Then if you don't impose sanctions, then Russia keeps trying to infiltrate your government.
But you also must understand that some of those European countries will not accept and follow through with the American sanctions. If you talk about the sanction on Iran, for instance, the United States is even going against the spirit and letters of the nuclear agreement, which is not only a United States thing. It's also for the other countries that discuss these issues. So we have to be very careful. Germany trade gas, oil from Russia and all that. If at once, sanctions start to hit back your allies and all that, some of them will stop siding with you and also take unilateral actions.
Now, one final question. What's the lesson here for other members of the international community, Nigeria, for instance? What's the lesson here that we can learn from what's happening with U.S. and Russia?
The fact is that we are not part of any of these alliances that they've set up.
But could we be affected?
I doubt if we could be affected. On the other hand, if there's a serious sanction on Russian oil and all that, and the price of oil goes up, it's to our own benefit. It's to our own benefit. If there's crisis in the Middle East and the price of oil goes up, it's to our own benefit. We have been the oil prices have been slugging very low. So definitely anything that will bring it up, I doubt if it's going to be at our disadvantage.
Thank you so much, Professor Dokubo, for speaking with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And this is where we end the program today. Thanks for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.